Thank you everybody for taking a few minutes out of your time to watch us on Momentum Talks. I am Greg Gunther from YBM, founder and director of YBM. Today we have Deborah Harris from Grow CFO. Welcome, Deborah.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Before we get started, I'll just give a quick intro to Deborah, a bit of her background. She's a passionate philanthropist, speaker and entrepreneur. She is the founder of Grow CFO Co, which is a company that specialises in growing the financial capabilities of purpose-driven businesses. She's a dedicated number nerd. There's very few of those, Deborah, with enormous capacity to uplift others from her strategic thinking and her quirky sense of humour, which I can attest to. Deborah believes that businesses who are spending their efforts trying to make our world a better and fairer place for everyone deserve to grow and thrive. To Deborah, this is the easiest way for us to solve the world's biggest problems that we have and support those who are committed to action. So welcome again, Deborah. Thank you for taking time out of, I know, your valuable diary. You've been travelling. So got a number of questions here that we'd just like to pose to you, but the very first one that we'd like to kick off with is something just a little different. And what's something that's crazy or maybe an amazing statistic that you feel is relevant to your industry that others may not know about?
Probably the most challenging statistic, and the reason I do what I do, is that there's actually 125 million small businesses on the face of the earth right now. Yeah. And 75 million of those in the next 3 years will go out of business forever. And the reason, there's a number of reasons, but one of the top 5 is poor cash flow for their business. And it's crazy because it's something we can actually change. We can actually fix that statistic. It's one of the few that's probably simpler than others to fix. And yet we don't invest the time and energy thinking strategically to shift that. And when I know that that's someone's family home, it's the stress that you take home like a suitcase full of worry at the end of the day, and it impacts on your family life. And I'm so passionate about family that for me is it's a crazy statistic. Maybe not crazy in terms of 35% of people prefer white bread, but it's a crazy statistic because it's something we can change.
Yeah, and that's the key point to it, isn't it? That it is something that we can change. I guess, and you probably come across this, people maybe just lack an understanding, of exactly, what the numbers actually mean. They're probably just looking at their bank balances, I'm guessing, as a thing. So Deborah, what, like Grow CFO, that's probably an unknown to a lot of people. What services do you provide there, and what would you be known for?
Well, we're known for actually teaching teams about cash flow. We found that there's a place in the market for virtual chief financial officer solutions. And we know that there's a growing business can't really afford the overhead of having a full-time CFO in their business when they're still small. And they need the help of somebody who's capable of lifting it to that level. So putting someone in there in a part-time capacity, if they've got the right skill set, can be an invaluable source of strategic knowledge and understanding for that business. But a lot of businesses are not CFO ready. Their team needs training on how to build up their financial capabilities. And we need to do that in a way that's cash flow positive, because obviously if you're going to pay for having a CFO further down the line, you're going to need to know that you can fund that. And it's not just a CFO, anybody who's in an executive level. If you're trying to employ top talent, you need to have the funds in there to actually afford that overhead for the business. So we found that we spent a lot of time, and we've built up a lot of process over the last, we've had an accounting firm for over 30 years, and we've worked out how to build up that team training to a point where we now have stepped out with Grow CFO on its own, and we focus on the team training rather than focusing on any of the accounting work. So we work alongside the business's accountants now, whoever they already have, and we just help them with that strategic direction and how to understand the cash flow.
Yeah, cool. And I do know from my own experience just how little understanding people have of managing their cash. They're just not monitoring it. So, and that probably segues into the next question for me, Deborah. Like, you have come across that arise in family businesses.
Well, we know that a family business is started from the passion of the founder. There's something that they wanted to do for their family and for themselves that really struck their vision in the first place. But alongside that comes from all the challenges of investing your whole family wealth and so forth on that. So it can be a massive challenge there. And I'm not sure if any of your listeners can identify with this, but I suspect they can. When you find out that your business is profitable, by going into your tax accountant and they say, congratulations, you made a great profit this year. Here's your tax bill and here's our bill. And you're going, where the hell is the money? I don't know how to pay for this. And that's what we find is that's that lack of, there's a disconnect between, people don't understand necessarily the difference between revenue, profit and cash flow.
Yes. Yeah, so, and again, just probably even following the line there, like, what would be, do you think, an action that a business owner could take to, start to step towards solving some of these issues?
Well, I guess the first thing is if you're already paying to get your accounts done for your tax return, and that's probably 98% of businesses, get your accountant to give you those numbers in a way that can help you drive your strategy forward. So the numbers are already there. They're already generated. You're already paying for that. You're not having to pay any extra for that. So if you can get those numbers and use those numbers, you can ask your accountant. Your accountant may be someone who can drive that strategy for you, but you can use those same numbers to actually work out what to do next, not just have a look at what you've already done, because that's not, while it's great for your ego, or maybe not so great for your ego, it doesn't help you work out what to do next.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And look, is there any sort of valuable tools or systems that, or even a piece of content, like this is something people should read that might help them with some of this?
Well, there's a few tools that we use that we find invaluable, and one is we do a power of one scenario analysis. So as soon as someone comes to us, we bring in all their data, and our CFOs have a really good look to see if there's anything wrong with it or any challenges that they have with it, to see, because sometimes when we do things for the reasons of tax, they're not necessarily what you need to know for the reasons of growth. And we go through those particular pieces of information and we put them through our Power of One scenario tool, and it tells us the dollar value. There's actually 7 cash flow levers. It tells us the dollar value of each one. And we've then found that profiling, so there's lots of different personality profiling systems out there, but we've found that there's certain key characteristics, certain of those characteristics make for a better match for someone who, say if you're trying to get a person to fix your overheads, you choose someone who's really good at structure and chasing things down and, going and talking to your landlord and that kind of thing to get you some money back. That might be someone that is completely different from who would drive your sales.
Yeah.
So we know that having a look at their profile and helping business owners with working out what their profile of their employees is. And I know that you guys do a great profiling tool as part of your toolkit too. Yes. And it's quite standard for that to be a part of it. The other thing we use is, it's really simple. It's a Google sheet with all the metrics on it, and we use it as a flight deck, and we just check in every single week. How are we doing here? What's going on with us? And we use Futurely as one of the tools that we use. That's Futrli, just to confuse everybody with spelling. We use that as a dashboarding tool for a lot of our big CFO engagements, because we can bring their data from lots of different sources and report in one common language.
Yes.
And that's really valuable for us, so we can look at some of their key metrics there. So that's more about outward facing, but for our internal team and how we track each week, all of our traffic sources for social media, all the bits and pieces that we're trying to pull together. A Google Sheet is just as good as anything else.
Look, it's a good point you're raising, because I think measuring the right metrics is terribly important. I don't know that a lot of people really take the time to understand what the key drivers are in their businesses. They're probably more inclined to reflect backwards just by looking at their financials, rather than understanding, well, what actions really actually drive those results. So I love your concept of a dashboard. I think that's a big hint for everybody, I think, to start to think about. You might have just answered this question, but the one last question that I did have was, what's the best piece of software that you use in your business, and what is it actually doing for you?
Yeah, well, I would say that the key one for us is really the power of one.
Yes.
We use that. That underpins all of our 7 levers of cash flow. By reporting back on that, we can show if you had a 1% change, or a 1-day change in the different 7 levers, how much is that actually impacting your business? So we take all of the guesswork out of the strategy that way. We know exactly how much each lever is worth, so we know exactly, okay, we focus on price and we'll focus on our pricing bundle, or nope, we need to focus on our cost of sales because that's out of control, or our accounts receivable days are too high. Those particular levers, we use it for ourselves and we use it for everybody else that comes through our doors, because it's just an amazing tool to drive strategy, but also to drive an understanding of which levers are making a big impact, but also helping a business owner know, or their team know what can shift it, what makes the difference.
Yeah. Look, it's a great point. I think again, I think when I first talked to you about your power of one, I have always operated off the 5 levers, and you've introduced another 2. But the reality is that it does give you that focus, because you can see which of those levers are giving the most influence. And typically, in my experience, I'm seeing a lot of people focusing in on the wrong levers. There is other lower hanging fruit, so to speak, that they could be actually focusing in on and getting a good result.
Yeah, you're quite right, because a lot of people, when they're struggling with cash flow, they'll immediately think I have to sell more.
Yes, exactly.
And often it's the one that makes the least difference, which is quite surprising to many people. But sometimes it actually can send you going backwards. If you've got, think of it like a leaky bucket. If you've got a hole in your bucket and you're pouring more water in, it's just running out you're just losing more water out the bottom. You're not making any difference.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly. Look, thank you, Deborah. That's been really, really insightful, and it's a topic that frankly, is one of those, I think, most important things for people to be thinking about. So again, that power of one that Deborah talked about is a great tool, and I'd encourage you to reach out. And just on that point, I'm sure from this short session that I've just done with Deborah, you can actually see the passion that she has, particularly around managing cash. And it is one of those things that will trip you up if you're not on top of it. So if you need Deborah to reach, feel free to reach out to her. You can check out her website. It's www.grow, as in GROW, CFO Co, co.com. So it's www.growcfoco.com. Or you can connect directly with her on LinkedIn. Just do a search on Deborah and you'll find her on LinkedIn. One last point, please take a few short minutes to subscribe now. That'll ensure that you get regular updates from our new Momentum Talks as we do them. Each time we interview somebody, and it'll be on different topics from different time, we want to continue to add value to you as business owners. Thank you again, Deborah. That was amazing, and really appreciate you taking your time.
That's my pleasure. Thank you very much for asking me, Greg.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, Deborah.